Hey, what's up everybody? It's your girl Tanya with Books and Brown Liquor, and today I have another book review video. The book we are discussing today is The Shuddering by Ania Ahlborn. So, before I even talk about the book, number one, The Shuddering is the perfect title for this book, okay? The perfect title. Okay, the perfect title. Number two, let's talk about the cover real quick. We have a sky and then we have a perimeter of blood. I have found in my experience that whenever there's a lot of blood on the cover, there's lots of blood in the book. The sky, I'm guessing, is the last thing that people see before they die. So that's pretty accurate. So this is one of those books where you can honestly judge it by its cover. The title, and the picture. So anyway, okay, going in. The Shuddering takes place in the mountains of Colorado in a cabin, and it's not an old rickety cabin. It's actually a very nice cabin. These people, they're pretty well off. It's 5 friends, and it's Ryan, his twin sister Jane, Ryan's best friend Sawyer, his girlfriend April, and Jane's best friend Lauren. So 5 people in a cabin. Basically, Jane and Ryan's father is wealthy, and he decides that he's selling this cabin up in it's a beautifully descriptive. And he decides he's selling this cabin. So before the cabin actually sells and is taken over by new owners, they decide they're gonna have one last hoorah, because Jane, Sawyer, and Ryan were like best friends growing up. They were like the 3 musketeers. Lots of good memories there. So this is their last hoorah before everybody goes their separate ways and lives adult life. So, up in the mountains of Colorado, and of course it's winter, it's snowing badly, and that seems to be a common thread in the books that I'm reading lately. Lots of really bad weather, which means isolation, and help is not coming. So anyway, while they're in this cabin, you know, sitting by the fire, eating chocolate cake and, you know, damn near roasting chestnuts and shit, living their best life. Unbeknownst to them, there are creatures out in the woods that are animalistic in their behavior, but they have a humanoid figure, and they hunt humans so they can eat them. So they have no idea that like bodies and bloodshed is going on around the town. You know, whenever bodies pop up, you hear locals talk about, oh, it must have been an animal. It must have been wolves. No, it's not wolves. So they don't know that this is going on. And they are not so they're the main characters of the book, but the book opens up with a man like fighting for his life. Okay. And while he's running for his life, he gets a good look at these creatures, okay? And basically as a child, his father told him stories about these creatures. And when you hear stories about something, when it sounds extraordinary, it sounds unbelievable, you don't really believe it. It's like a myth that people talk about, an old folk story that people just say to scare each other. But unfortunately, he discovers too late that the stories are true. These creatures do exist. And one thing that was really creepy to me is, as he's running for his life, there were 2 things his father told him about these creatures. They only come out when it snows, and no one ever gets away. So he's thinking this as he's running for his life. So like I said, it's not just the main characters in the cabin that are being hunted. It's whoever they can get their damn hands on, okay? And yeah, once they do get their claws on you, you really don't have a chance, because these creatures they're savages. They're aggressive, and it's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. So, and they do like I said, their characteristics are very animalistic. They do run in a pack. You know, they howl, they growl, they snarl. So, let's talk about the creatures. They are described as tall, sinewy, muscular creatures with very long arms, very big hands with claws, and the biggest teeth you've ever seen. Okay? So even though these are not creatures that really exist, the way she tells this story, it is very scary because the way they behave. Their behavior is very animalistic, even though they have this humanoid form. Okay? So that made me think of Game of Thrones. You know how in Game of Thrones, winter is coming for like the first 3 or 4 seasons, winter was coming. And it was the same thing in Game of Thrones where they talked about the White Walkers. A White Walker hasn't been seen in years. What are you talking about? But then the opening of Game of Thrones, you literally see a White Walker eating a man. But of course, everybody else doesn't know it until they come face to face with one and they're like, oh shit, the stories are true. So this reminded me of Game of Thrones and the White Walkers. These creatures, the way they behave, they do remind me of the White Walkers. So what I will say is, not only is winter coming, winter is here, winter has cometh, and winter is scary. Winter is scary because the weather, obviously in the mountains, it's snowing. So the roads are no good. So, you know, like I said, help is not coming. So the creatures have an advantage. You can't just hop in your truck and run and drive away. So the creatures have an advantage. Because like I said, they come out only when it snows. So other bodies have, you know, popped up all throughout this small town. But when the threat comes to these 5 people in this cabin, and they realize what they're dealing with, this is that good old story of man versus nature. What do? Do you let this thing consume you, or do you fight back? Because these things, they're savages. I mean, they really are. And they're very intimidating. I mean, they're tall, it's creepy. Even though these things don't exist, what I will say is this book made you very afraid. It did make you very afraid. The way they move, the way they sound, it was just crazy. So, the hero. Let's talk about the hero. Let's talk about the characters. So, the friends inside the cabin, when stuff starts going down, they come to a realization that they're isolated, help is not coming. They cannot just sit here and wait for these creatures to do what they're gonna do. So Ryan takes it upon himself to be the leader, to be the hero, and make weapons the best way they can, okay? He decides we're not just gonna sit here, we are gonna fight back. I don't care how many of them it is, we have to try if we're gonna survive. Because by the time help comes, it could be a crime scene by the time they get here. If we don't do something, we're sitting ducks, right? So, I wanted to read a teaser from the book. Basically, Ryan comes to the realization that him and Sawyer decide they are gonna go outside to get supplies. They hear them out there. They're howling. But Ryan's like, yo, put your big boy pants on. We have to go outside and get supplies. And basically, one of them decides to approach and intimidate him. And Ryan comes to the realization that we're not running anymore. We're fighting back, okay? So I wanted to read a teaser because this was one of my favorite scenes of the book. I was like, go ahead, Ryan. But, and I read it on Kindle, so of course I don't have my Kindle ready. Okay, here we go. So, like I said, they're on their way back in the house and this creature decides to block their path. And Ryan's like, no, fuck that, keep going. And they approach, this thing is on its haunches, ready to attack. And Ryan's like, if he don't move, we fucking him up. Like, we're not running, we're fighting. Like I said, if he don't move, we fucking his ass up. He can get it too, okay? So, Ryan was suddenly overwhelmed, not with fear, but with utter contempt. He grabbed the sharpened pool cue that Sawyer had dropped into the snow, baring his teeth at the monstrosity that was watching him a little too intently, as though it were learning. And while it teetered there, Ryan lunged, burying the end of the Q-tip. My bad. Ryan was suddenly overwhelmed, not with fear, but with utter contempt. He grabbed the sharpened pool cue that Sawyer had dropped in the snow, baring his teeth at the monstrosity that was watching him a little too intently, as though it were learning. And while it teetered there, Ryan lunged, burying the end of the Q-tip between its ribs. The thing stumbled backward as if in surprise. Its arms flailed around the stick jutting out of its chest, trying to grab at it with its large, cumbersome claws. Ryan took its distraction as an opportunity. He took another step forward, jabbing his torch into the thing's face, purposely aiming for one of its eyes. The monster emitted an ear-piercing scream as it stumbled backward, falling into the snow. It blindly groped the ground, trying to regain its bearing with only one eye, but its depth perception was off. Shuffling through a few uneasy steps, it pitched forward against the slope of the road, and the pool cue that was still stuck between its ribs burst through its back, releasing a geyser of blood that arced across the sky. A geyser of blood that arced across the sky. Ooh, okay, look. When I read that, I pictured it in my mind like a Quentin Tarantino movie, blood arcing across the sky. And if you've ever seen Kill Bill, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, yeah, we're at a point where Ryan's fighting back. And then when he finally got one of them, he was like, oh, yay, one for the team. So all I'm saying is this book makes you want to buy a gun. Not a cute gun that fits in your purse, like a double-barrel shotgun and an assault rifle. So you at least have a chance. Something that makes big holes. So even if you don't make it, at least you tried before you go to meet Jesus. That's all I'm saying. So I enjoyed this book. I recommend this book. I understand that these types of books are not for everybody. It is gory. Lots of blood, like I said before. But hell yeah, I recommend it. And Ania Ahlborn, let me tell you something. When I read a book and I like the author, I start looking for other books by that author. So immediately following this, I jumped into her next book I'm reading is The Bird Eater. That's some creepy shit and that's a whole nother video. But anyway, I recommend it. I would say 4.5. She's not exactly Stephen King level. This is not the next great American novel, but she will pull you into a story that makes you feel utterly terrified. So with that, I wish you good reading. Bye.